Helpful skills for close quarters boat maneuvering. First is minimum steerage speed. I want to be able to have my boat go as slow as I can, but still have steerage with my helm. That means that there's enough water flowing over my rudder where it still causes bite and my helm answers back. If I don't have any answer on my helm, I need to go a little bit faster. But as soon as that the boat's under control, then I can go ahead and put it back in neutral and the boat will still be controllable. Now, right now I'm stopped in the middle of the fairway. Two important forces that I want to know are prop walk and prop wash. First of all, prop walk is what happens in reverse. When I put the gear into reverse, before I get actual bite in the water and the boat starts moving backward, that propeller is going to be spinning and acting like a paddle wheel, clawing my boat over to the port side. If I've got a right-hand turning propeller, it's the opposite if you have a left-hand turning propeller and forward. This boat has port prop walk, so I'm going to show you. I'm going to put it in reverse and watch what happens with a burst of power into reverse. Little burst of power, my stern starts coming over to the port side, just like that. Second force I want you to know is prop wash. Prop wash is when I go into forward with my gear, give it a little burst of power, and I wash the water over my rudder. So I'm going to turn my rudder all the way over to starboard. I'm going to give it a burst of power into forward. And again, you can see how my stern starts moving over to the side, just like that. It's moving over to the opposite side. My stern moves to port when I have my rudder all the way to starboard. Once you know how to control prop wash and prop walk, then you can turn your boat around even when you don't have minimum steer speed. I'm in a fairly tight fairway right now, and I want to turn my boat around and go back the other way from a stop position. I'm going to start by pushing my helm all the way, turn my helm all the way over to starboard, and I'm going to give it a burst of power into forward. And that's going to start my turn. I'm going to come back to neutral and then back to reverse. Give it a little bit of burst of power into reverse, which is going to continue my turn, bringing my stern over to my port side. Then I'm going to go back into forward, do the opposite, go ahead and another burst of power into forward, another burst of power into reverse. And by doing these back and fills, the boat is turning around and I don't need to have minimum steerage speed. So I was able to turn my boat 180 degrees around in a fairly tight fairway without having minimum steerage speed by using prop walk and prop wash, doing that standing turn. Now you can keep spinning it around if you want to do it all the way around. I was just turning around to face out the other direction. Now I want to have a burst of power in the forward so I can maintain minimum steerage speed and start heading out the fairway. I do a short little burst, and then I come back to idle forward so that my boat's already moving, but I don't need to go any faster than this. I also want to know where the pivot point is, so I'm pivoting. When I do my standing turn, I'm going to pivot around my pivot point. Or if I'm going to turn and I know where my pivot point is, I'm going to wait till that piling comes right to my pivot point before I even start to turn my helm around. And then the pivot point will stay very close to that piling all the way through the turn, and I'll end up over facing the port side. Before I start reversing, if I know I've got port prop walk, I'm going to go ahead and turn my bow a little bit over to the port side so that I'm not quite square with the fairway here. That way, when I start going into reverse, the port prop walk will take over, then I can slow down a little bit and the boat's fairly even in the fairway. Now, instead of looking behind my shoulder and watching where I'm going, what I like to do is step around and reverse up from watching a sternway. That way I'm not reversing in my mind which way I should be turning the wheel. If I want to go to the left, I go left. If I want to turn to the right, I turn to the right. And I still have minimum steerage speed going in reverse. I've got good control of the vessel, and I can go ahead and steer back, making way through the water until I reach the point where I want to turn. Now, because the boat steers from the back with the rudder, I am going to keep looking over my shoulder at my bow to make sure my bow's not swinging either direction.